What if the fiercest enemies in one of the world's longest conflicts share more genetic ancestry than most siblings? Modern DNA science has uncovered a truth that both Israelis and Palestinians have tried to ignore. They are genetic cousins, descended from the same ancient Levantine populations who lived on this contested land thousands of years ago. In 2001, a team of geneticists at Hebrew University in Jerusalem made a discovery that would complicate decades of political narratives. Dr. Ariella Oppenheim and her colleagues analyzed DNA samples from Jewish and Palestinian populations across the region. What they found was scientifically fascinating but politically explosive. Jews and Palestinians share a remarkably close genetic relationship, closer than either group shares with any other population on Earth. The research sat unpublished for months. Colleagues warned that releasing the findings could be misinterpreted by extremists on both sides. Some feared it would undermine Jewish historical claims to the land. Others worried it would be weaponized to delegitimize Palestinian identity. But science doesn't care about politics, and eventually the truth had to emerge. When the study finally appeared in the journal Human Immunology, it revealed that Jewish and Palestinian populations cluster together genetically, separated from other Middle Eastern groups. The genetic distance between a Jewish Israeli and a Palestinian was smaller than the distance between either and Syrians, Egyptians, or Saudi Arabians. They were, genetically speaking, family. To understand how Jews and Palestinians became genetic relatives, we must travel back 4,000 years to the Bronze Age Levant. The land between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River was inhabited by a people historians call Canaanites. These weren't a single tribe, but a collection of city-states and agricultural communities speaking related Semitic languages. Archaeological evidence from sites like Megiddo, Hazor, and Jericho reveals a sophisticated civilization. The Canaanites built walled cities, developed writing systems, and engaged in extensive trade with Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Aegean world. They worshipped gods like El, Baal, and Asherah. They were the original inhabitants of the land both Jews and Palestinians claim as their ancestral home. Modern genetic studies have confirmed what archaeologists long suspected. Both Jewish and Palestinian populations descend primarily from these ancient Canaanites. In 2020, researchers at the Wellcome Sanger Institute extracted and sequenced DNA from Bronze Age Canaanite skeletons found in Lebanon. When they compared this ancient DNA to modern populations, they found the closest matches were Lebanese, Palestinians, and Jews. Dr. Mark Haber, who led the research, stated the findings clearly. The present-day Lebanese and Palestinians are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites. But he could have added Jews to that list. All three groups carry approximately 50 to 60% Canaanite ancestry, making them genetic siblings separated only by later population movements and cultural evolution. The Jewish diaspora created one branch of this genetic family tree. Following the Roman destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD and the suppression of the Bar Kokhba revolt in 135 AD, Jewish populations were dispersed across the Roman Empire and beyond. Communities formed in Mesopotamia, North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, and eventually throughout Europe. This diaspora created the major Jewish ethnic divisions we see today: Ashkenazi Jews in Europe, Sephardic Jews in Spain and North Africa, and Mizrahi Jews in the Middle East. Each group acquired genetic admixture from their host populations over centuries. Ashkenazi Jews, for instance, carry approximately 50 to 55% Levantine ancestry mixed with Southern European genetic markers. Sephardic Jews show similar Levantine ancestry with Iberian and North African additions. But here's what's crucial. Despite 2,000 years of diaspora and intermarriage with diverse populations, Jewish groups retained a core genetic signature tracing directly back to the ancient Levant. Studies by Dr. Harry Oster at New York University demonstrated that Jewish populations worldwide share more genetic similarity with each other and with Palestinians than with their non-Jewish neighbors. The Y-chromosome data tells a particularly clear story. Jewish men from different diaspora communities carry shared Y DNA haplogroups like J1 and J2, originating in the Middle East. These same haplogroups appear at high frequencies in Palestinian populations. The paternal lineages, passed father to son for millennia, reveal shared ancestry that diaspora couldn't erase. While one branch of the Canaanite family scattered across the world, another remained in place. The ancestors of modern Palestinians never left the Levant. Through successive empires, Roman, Byzantine, Arab, Crusader, Mamluk, and Ottoman, they remained on the land, gradually adopting new religions and languages, but maintaining genetic continuity with ancient populations. This doesn't mean Palestinians are pure Canaanites. Genetic studies show they carry ancestry from various groups who arrived over millennia. Arabian tribes who came with the Islamic conquest in the 7th century, some Byzantine Greek ancestry, limited Crusader-era European genetics, and connections to other Levantine populations. But their primary ancestry, averaging 55 to 65%, traces to the ancient Bronze Age inhabitants of the region. Dr. Doron Bahar's comprehensive study of Middle Eastern populations found that Palestinians cluster most closely with Jordanians, Syrians, and Lebanese, all populations inhabiting the same region for thousands of years. But intriguingly, they also cluster with Jewish populations, particularly Mizrahi and Sephardic Jews who never left the Middle East, or who left more recently. The mitochondrial DNA passed from mother to daughter shows similar patterns. Palestinian and Jewish populations share elevated frequencies of haplogroups K, N1, and U, all of which trace back to ancient Levantine populations. The maternal lineages reveal what the paternal lineages also show: shared ancestry from common source populations. The Cohen modal haplotype, a genetic signature of shared priesthood. One of the most fascinating pieces of genetic evidence involves the Jewish priestly class. According to Jewish tradition, Kohanim, Jewish priests, descend patrilineally from Aaron, the brother of Moses, who lived approximately 3,300 years ago. This seemed like religious mythology until geneticists tested it. In 1997, Dr. Karl Skorecki discovered something remarkable. Jewish men claiming Cohen ancestry from communities worldwide, Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and Mizrahi, share a distinctive Y-chromosome signature now called the Cohen modal haplotype. Despite being separated for over 2,000 years, these priestly families retained a genetic marker suggesting common ancestry from a small founding population. Here's where it gets interesting for our story. This Cohen modal haplotype belongs to haplogroup J1, which originated in the Middle East approximately 20,000 years ago. This same haplogroup appears at high frequencies in Palestinian populations, reaching 30% in some communities. While Palestinians don't carry the specific Cohen modal haplotype variant, they carry closely related J1 lineages, suggesting common ancestry from the same ancient Levantine populations. Some researchers have even found the Cohen modal haplotype itself in small percentages of Palestinian populations, though whether this represents ancient shared ancestry or more recent admixture remains debated. The Samaritan connection, living evidence of shared origin. The Samaritans provide perhaps the most compelling evidence of Jewish-Palestinian shared ancestry. This tiny religious community, numbering only about 850 people today, claims descent from the ancient Israelite tribes who remained in the land during the Babylonian exile. Both Jews and Samaritans reject each other's religious claims, but genetically, they tell an important story. Genetic studies of Samaritans conducted by Dr. Batsheva Bon Tamir revealed they carry Y-chromosome haplogroups nearly identical to Jewish populations. J1 and J2 dominate. But their mitochondrial DNA shows something different. While Samaritan paternal lineages cluster with Jews, their maternal lineages cluster more closely with Palestinian populations. This suggests Samaritan men maintained endogamy while their community incorporated local women over centuries. The Samaritans represent a genetic bridge, carrying paternal ancestry shared with Jews and maternal ancestry shared with Palestinians. They are living evidence that these populations descend from the same ancient source and have continued mixing throughout history. Genetic diseases provide unexpected confirmation of Jewish-Palestinian shared ancestry. Certain genetic disorders appear at elevated frequencies in both populations, suggesting they inherited mutations from common ancestral populations. Familial Mediterranean fever, caused by mutations in the MEFV gene, appears at high rates in Jews, Palestinians, Turks, and Armenians. The specific mutations common in Jewish and Palestinian populations overlap significantly, suggesting they inherited these variants from shared Levantine ancestors, rather than developing them independently. Similarly, certain variants affecting drug metabolism appear at similar frequencies in Jewish and Palestinian populations, but differ from European or Asian populations. The CYP2C9 gene variants, affecting how people metabolize common medications, show Middle Eastern patterns shared by Jews and Palestinians, but distinct from other groups. Beta thalassemia, a blood disorder, appears in Mediterranean populations including Jews and Palestinians. The specific mutations common in the region suggest ancient origins in Levantine populations, later spread through both Jewish and Palestinian communities. While Y-chromosome and mitochondrial DNA provide insights into paternal and maternal lineages, autosomal DNA, the other 22 chromosome pairs, provides the complete picture of ancestry. Studies analyzing autosomal DNA have consistently shown that Dr. Gil Otzman's research, published in Nature, analyzed autosomal SNPs from Jewish and Middle Eastern populations. His findings demonstrated that Jewish populations form a genetic cluster, but Palestinians, Syrians, and Lebanese fall within or immediately adjacent to this cluster. The genetic distance between Ashkenazi Jews and Palestinians was comparable to the distance between Italian regions. More recent studies using advanced genomic techniques have confirmed these patterns. When geneticists create principal component analyses, graphical representations of genetic distances between populations, Jews and Palestinians cluster together, separated from Europeans, Africans, and other Asian populations. They occupy the same genetic space, reflecting their shared origins. Modern genetic analysis allows researchers to quantify shared ancestry with precision. Studies estimate that Jewish and Palestinian populations share approximately 40 to 50% of their genetic ancestry from common Levantine sources. This is comparable to the genetic similarity between European populations like French and Italians. Ashkenazi Jews, despite 2,000 years in Europe, retain approximately 50% Levantine ancestry. The other 50% comes from Southern European sources, primarily Italian and Greek. Palestinians carry approximately 55 to 65% ancient Levantine ancestry, with additional contributions from Arabian Peninsula populations, 10 to 15%, and smaller percentages from other Middle Eastern groups. When comparing specific communities, Mizrahi Jews and Palestinians show even closer relationships, sometimes sharing 60 to 70% of their genetic ancestry from common sources. Why this knowledge changes everything. Understanding the genetic relationship between Jews and Palestinians doesn't solve the political conflict, but it fundamentally changes how we understand it. Both populations have legitimate historical connections to the land because both descend from the land's ancient inhabitants. Neither is a foreign invader. Neither lacks indigenous roots. The conflict isn't between indigenous and colonizer, whatever either side claims. It's between two branches of the same ancient family who developed different religious and cultural identities over millennia of separate history. They are cousins fighting over an inheritance they both legitimately claim. This genetic truth demolishes extremist narratives on both sides. It undermines those who claim Jews are European colonizers with no Middle Eastern roots. It challenges those who deny Palestinian historical presence in the land. It forces recognition that both peoples belong to the land because both came from the land. The story of Jewish and Palestinian genetics is ultimately a story about how history separates families. Political, religious, and cultural evolution created distinct identities from shared ancestry. Understanding this shared past doesn't mean both populations must unite, or that their modern identities aren't real and important. It means that the conflict isn't rooted in genetic difference, but in how descendants of the same ancient people came to see themselves as fundamentally different.